What is going on, guys? Noah Brewer here. Today we're going to be talking about scaling, but also a little bit about my strategy and how it leads up to getting to the next level. So, scaling past 5K a day. This is a subject that was brought up in my inner circle group, and I just wanted to talk about it a little bit here, and maybe help you guys a little bit understand my strategy a little bit and how it all ties together, and also kind of maybe envision yourself scaling past 5K a day one day. And how it would all play out and make it a reality for you, because it sounds like a lot, but it's really not once you break it down and you learn how I actually done it multiple times. I basically did it the same time every time, so the same way every time. So first thing that needs to be understood is my strategy is mostly about preparing for the next step. If you haven't seen my 0 to 6 figure strategy video, which is basically a series that I made that literally breaks down my strategy step by step. Basically, if you didn't get the gist, every single thing that I do in the ad account since I launched the product all the way up to 6 figures is basically building up momentum to increase the chances of the next step working. Now, this is kind of hard to understand unless I kind of explain it to you. But my strategy is basically all about preparing for the next step. So I start with worldwide cold traffic, okay? The most broad that there is. I want the pixel to optimize for what's best. And then once that gets to 30 to 40 sales, I want to narrow it down by the big four. And this basically means creating a new campaign targeting only the big four with your best winning ad sets. And then once that gets over 40 sales, then you break that down and you narrow and you create a new campaign targeting a single country, or 2 campaigns targeting different countries. And then, by this time you should have 3 or 4 campaigns doing really well and probably doing between 500 to 1,000 a day in sales. Now, this is a very big overlook, right? Like I'm not getting too specific right now, and you're probably thinking like, what the fuck is going on in your head? But I break this all down in the 0 to 6 figure series, so that's not my goal here. But basically, after you have the worldwide and you move on to the big four and then you narrow it down by single country, you can see how we're kind of just narrowing it down. We start really broad and then we get more specific as time goes on. But after you do all that, you want to test $20 per day campaigns, which I do not talk about in the 0 to 6 figure strategy. That's something that's kind of new. But you test $20 a day campaigns and see if you can get your campaigns to work at 20 per day. And if you can, then continue doing 20 per day. And this will essentially allow you to push a lot more volume because you're using higher budgets. And that's normally the last thing that I'll try with cold traffic before I move on to lookalikes, is testing higher budgets. So like I said, these beginning steps should be able to bring you to 500 to 1K a day easily, especially if you're doing a higher ticket product. After you're done with these first initial steps, you should be doing around 500 to 1,000 a day in sales. Then once you have a single country or big four campaign performing good, whether it's at 5 a day or 20 a day, you can start your lookalikes in that same location. So after we figure out what location performs the best, after we get the pixel optimizing for a single location or the big four, that's a perfect time to introduce the lookalikes. And it's even better if you can get it working really good in a single country with $20 a day budgets, because when you go to do the lookalikes, you get to start at $20 per day, which means it's just going to push a lot more volume and do a lot better. But if 20 per days don't work, that's fine. You can still do it with 5 per days. So this is the basic breakdown of my strategy and how kind of doing worldwide is building up to get ready to do the big four. And then doing the big four is getting ready to narrow down into a single country. It's basically training the pixel to work on a little bit more of a narrow basis and become a little bit more focused on what it's targeting. And also a big part of this is testing higher budgets and trying to get that to work as well. Because if you ever scale the store, you know that the higher the budgets that you can get to work, the better. The quicker it'll scale, the more consistent it'll be, etc. So I like to start with big four or more countries in the first lookalike campaign that I make, so that I can go ahead and break it down later after it optimizes. This game is all about optimization. Like I said, the reason why I go from worldwide to Big Four is because worldwide allows it to optimize on a much broader basis, which actually helps it when it tries to optimize on a more narrow basis. And that's kind of how I break things down. So it's always better to start more narrow than to start more broad than narrow. And basically, once an ad account momentum is building up, you're doing lookalikes, you have retargeting, all this kind of stuff. I start launching new campaigns 1 to 2 times a week, whether that's introducing a new location, introducing retargeting, testing different budgets, testing different audience type lookalikes, all those different stuff. And the best way to go from 1 to 2K a day to 5K and above is to have a ton of ad sets. And this is very obvious, right? Like no duh, Noah, but why do I specify that the best way is to have a ton of ad sets? It's not about having a ton of ad sets, it's about how you get those ad sets. So I see a ton of people who push a lot of volume, but they're not that profitable. And mostly what they do is they'll either create a bunch of really, really high budget lookalikes, or not lookalikes, but ad sets, or they'll just create a lot of ad sets in one day or 2 days or whatever. They'll just start creating like 20 ad sets in one day or 30 ad sets in one day. And the reason why I don't do this is because when it does work, it usually isn't that profitable, and it usually doesn't last that long for the ad sets that do end up being profitable. So that's the reason why my strategy isn't like, oh, if you're doing 2K a day, just create 50 ad sets and you'll start doing 5K. That's not what I want. I want consistency. Like when I hit 5K a day, I want it to be 5K a day every single day, and I want it to be 5K, then 6K, then 7K, then 8K. But once I hit a number, I want it to be consistent. Like I want to be able to know that tomorrow I'm going to wake up and make, $2,000 profit or 5K in sales or whatever. So that's why I play it safe. I take my time to grow the ad account. I make ad sets as a daily action. And almost every time the ad sets that you make, if you introduce them slowly and you take your time and it's a daily action for you, they will be consistent for months to come, which means all you have to do is just build up enough of them so that you have a lot to be doing 5K and above per day, and it'll be really, really consistent. And if you follow this, when you do hit 5K per day, which it might take a month or two after you start scaling, you will be doing 5K a day every day. It's not just like you'll just do 5K a day here and there when, on those days when you create 30 to 50 ad sets or whatever. And I can promise you that all the accounts that I've grown slowly and steadily are way, way, way more profitable than people who just create like 30 ad sets or just scale budgets ridiculously. So just to cap this off, which it was a lot of information, but basically my strategy is all about preparing for the next step. So every little thing that you do should be building up momentum to increase the chances of the next step to work, whether the next step is adding a new campaign, breaking down by country, testing a new budget, whatever it is. And if you follow my strategy, you can see that literally everything just builds up to adding the next step and building up that momentum. And if you do this correctly, almost everything that you do should work. When you create new campaigns, when you break down by country, all these things should work. And it just kind of like when it does work, you make a lot of money. That's how my strategy works. So that is part 1. I just want you guys to understand that. Part 2 is dropping, but that is going to be talking about more how to prepare to do 5K a day, because a lot of people talk about how to get there, or maybe not even a lot of people talk about how to get there. This might be one of the only videos out there that's actually showing, but we come out here and people just expect that they could just do 5K a day and everything's fine, but there's actually a lot of things that you need to do to prepare to be pushing this type of volume, including things like, relationships with payment gateways, things on your store that you should have set up on your back end. I've taken a lot of stores to above 5K a day, and I've seen so many just die out because they weren't prepared to push that kind of volume. So part 2, we're going to be talking a little bit about how to prepare to actually do this. But as for this video, this is Noah Brewer. And if you like this video and you got good value out of it, make sure to drop a comment, leave a like, and subscribe. But as for this video, I'm out. Peace.